Mike and Ron. Here to help. Here to
You
help.
have to be able to, and I think comedians, generally speaking, are really good at that. But in the context of what we're talking about right now, I think it's really important. The better you are at being able to put yourself in another person's shoes, or to see another person's argument, to understand and relate to their perspective. I think
Chris Rock one time said, it was on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, goes, comedians are expert arguers, and we can argue both sides.
Right. That's definitely true.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
I think that's one of the reasons why when you have a conversation with comedians, I at least have fun sometimes with if I know that you're like a diehard liberal, just for my own amusement, I'll take the conservative side.
Right.
Just to have fun, because I know what their side will be, and I can actually argue it.
Right.
And then someone's a diehard conservative, and then I'll argue the liberal side because I understand their concept of it as well.
That's the art of being a white man.
The art of being the white man. That's my other podcast. I will.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to help.
We're here to help. If you ever need help with proper Caucasian action,
how to be the white man.
How to be the white man.
You're going to learn here today. You know what I mean? Absolutely. No, I think I do agree with you. I think, well, for me, when I start dealing with when I listen to liberals, my liberal brothers and sisters, I'm trying to discern, probably like most African Americans and people of color are, if they're actually a liberal or if they're a liberal racist. And so, because a lot, it's very hard to tell, and a lot of it's a bunch of talk, and so.
Because they say all the right words.
Right, exactly.
Well, they know the buzzwords. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And quite frankly, to all people here to help, this is not a judgment. The reason why we're doing this podcast is so you can possibly be awakened to the fact that you do have possibly some form of an implicit bias within you that can be translated or seen, could appear to be a racist view.
Well, let me ask you this, because this is I was thinking about, because again you've used that word, liberal racist a couple times, and so I'm trying to. I've come up with this example.
Yeah,
you live in California,
right?
You give to democratic causes, you give money, you use the proper pronoun and all that kind of stuff. But then when someone announces that they're going to build a shelter for, middle-class housing or lower-class housing,
Preach.
You are the first person to sit there and be
not
like,
well, not my neighborhood.
Not my neighborhood. I believe in liberal concepts, but can't it be somewhere else? Exactly. Can we have it someplace else? Right. That's the definition of a liberal racist.
NIMBY, if you will, NIMBY.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And you use the buzzwords, and you use the conversations of, I just don't understand why it's taking so long, or I don't understand why they don't want the help, or there's all these different ways that the liberal racists will communicate that they view themselves to be better than or above, or don't need to actually directly deal with the issues in society that we all actually have to directly deal with.
There was a great article in the Los Angeles Times, it was about a week ago, in which a reporter rode the train near MacArthur, I think MacArthur Park.
I think
right.
so,
Oh my God.
Yeah,
heroin alley.
Yeah, and it's pretty much, it's a multi-billion-dollar investment in public transportation, and it's borderline empty.
Yeah.
Because people are like, I'm not going to get on this train. I'm not going to risk my life. I'm not doing this and all this kind of stuff. And to go through my own emotions, when I first read the article,
right,
I did have that concept of like, these people need to, a cop should be waiting at the entrance when this guy is falling down and needs to be put into jail. This is terrible, and there needs to be a sweep in MacArthur Park. This is unacceptable, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And I had those emotions. And if you'd have talked to me immediately after reading this, I did. But then I reflected, and I came
here to help, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah,
here to help, ladies and gentlemen.
Here to help. So Mike Sasson, Ron Bush, here to help.
Here to help.
But then I started to think a little bit more deeply, and then I had this concept in my head. We are one of the richest areas on the planet Earth.
Oh, yeah.
And if we wanted to have the housing, the policing, the quality education, the quality healthcare that was necessary to eradicate this it could happen.
Absolutely.
This is a country that is
Yes.
just, and I just read this week, once we've paid down the debt, the Iraq, which by the way, we're celebrating 20 years since we went into Iraq.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Trillions
the-
of dollars.
yeah.
Trillions of
The
dollars.
initial, the estimate by 2050 is including interest. The two wars will cost the American taxpayer $6.5 trillion.
6.5 trillion.
$6.5 trillion with a T.
Right. With a T.
Okay,
Right.
to do two wars that ultimately accomplish nothing.
I think a Starship Enterprise would have cost less money.
Yes.
I'm going to say this. Okay, so I was watching that.
Find out how much a Star Trek
Enterprise
Enterprise
would-
would
yeah,
actually
yeah,
have cost.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah.
You know, first of all, I agree with everything you were saying. Okay, and you know, what I would like to remind people in this argument is, you know, the homeless people that we have here, all across the country. You know, here in Los Angeles, how many of them are vets? How many of them have degrees? You know, these are people that, for whatever reason, had some type of mental disability, severe depression, chemical imbalance, lack of health care is the bottom line. And here they are, unable to take care of themselves. They get addicted to drugs, and you know, now they're long-term unhoused. And so
We're all responsible for it as well.
we
We're
really
all
are.
of us.
We
Me,
really are.
Ron, Travis, everyone.
Absolutely.
Even if you sit there and say, I've never been to California, I've never been to New
doesn't
York,
matter,
I've never been to these places. Yes, but you voted for or let win people to get into the federal level that have made it that healthcare is not available, that
yourself.
treatment's not available.
To yourself.
To yourself, yeah.
There are states right now where Obamacare is not allowed. In red states, they don't accept Obamacare. So they're purposely keeping their people from health care.
Yeah, just to own the libs.
I mean, it blows my mind. They're like, it just,
Did we get a number of what the
You're gonna be upset. It said so. Just to get the damn thing built and into orbit would actually cost $468.4 billion.
so we could have multiple Star Trek Enterprises.
Like
Wow.
4 or 5.
Yeah, we could have many.
Wow.
Instead, we got two wars that got nothing except dead people and the whole world hating
And
us.
now, to be fair, the technology doesn't exist for it to go warp, but we could build it, and it would go into space
Right.
for
Elon
way less
Musk.
money.
Elon Musk.
I bet you someone for $1 trillion could figure out warp speed.
They're
Of course
working on
they
it.
could.
I'm one of those nerds that get onto YouTube and start looking at like all these like freaky military engines and stuff like that. They are working on like these warp.
Oh yeah, gravitational propulsion.
Yeah,
crazy
absolutely,
stuff.
crazy
Oh, yeah.
stuff. There's crazy stuff going on, man.
Yes.
Yeah, there's and
That's one of the beliefs about what these UAPs could be is that it's actual gravitational technology. That's why it moves so quickly, and we can barely keep up with it.
Right.
Just experimental. So that's like almost warp drive.
There's all types of There's if you go on YouTube,
we
and
can
you-
do this shit.
If you go on YouTube and you just type in warp drive, you will be continually fed a steady stream of weirdos. But there's some really good stuff inside there.
But to get back to, and this is the end of that
Did we
thought
get
that I had.
sidetracked? Go
What?
ahead. Did we get sidetracked?
We sometimes we
Star
do.
Trek.
We got Star Trek. There you go. Wah, wah. Play a sound effect.
Hold on, here we go.
All right. There you go.
Mr. Sasson?
But the purpose is, and this is what gets in, and now we think, again, we're here to help. Now let's think at another level.
Just preach.
Who benefits by the fact that this park in Los Angeles is uninhabitable? Who benefits from the homeless? Who benefits from the fact, like that? There was an article where they talked about who's actually stopping all of this building that needs to be done in places like California and New York. You know what's actually stopped? The realtors, the lobbyists.
Yeah,
They're
your
sitting
Vanguard group.
Yeah, they're sitting there saying, yeah, we really like these huge commissions we're getting when we sell this $1 million house.
Yeah.
So we really don't want to actually drive the prices of homes down.
Yeah.
And because if you have a home, you're a millionaire. You are worth
right,
you are a millionaire
right,
if you
right,
own a home in California. And you're not going to sit there and say, oh yeah, let me build more stuff to drive down the price of my own home.
Right.
So ultimately, when you're sickened by the fact that you can't, go on the train or you go into downtown Los Angeles and there's this, that, and the other thing, realize you and me and Ron and Travis and everyone over the last 50 years, our decisions have created this. And the other thing about it is, and this is something I didn't make up, this is something that I read, just so you know, it's not Mike coming off the top of his head, if you ever want to see the future of your town, come to California.
Right.
If you ever want to see what's going to come with your food, what's going to come with your with income inequality, see it, come here. You're seeing 10, 15 years in the future.
I agree with you 100%. And from my perspective, I live in Koreatown. I sometimes take the train to go downtown because the red line is not even 3 blocks from my place.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm gonna tell you, listen, I'm from Philly. You know, I've lived in. I prefer to live in urban environments. You know, you have. You know, it's really difficult to get on the train and go downtown without seeing somebody smoking meth. You know, it's completely out of control. It doesn't feel safe, right? And quite frankly, it's not the fault of the unhoused. Again, you know, we have.
Yeah, what else do they have to do?
Or go. Our social structures have failed. You know, the police that walk around, they turn a blind eye to it like it's just another day in the park.
Oh yeah,
you know, which it is. You know, and
unless that guy who smokes meth, because it's funny because I'd have to believe that if I was a police officer, they would almost sit there and be like, "Oh, well, that guy's just going to become a zombie. He's in a sense not a threat anymore."
Right.
Because it's like I've talked to a lot of cops, and they would sit there and say, I would love if everyone did weed instead of drank beer. Because weed, a guy who smokes weed is not a threat to anybody.
No,
a guy who gets shit faced on vodka is a threat to everyone around him.
Yeah. I was. Oh yeah, exactly. No, I mean I was a door guy. I'd rather everyone be high as fuck. Like the jazz nights we would have.
Yeah,
best fucking nights, dude. Everyone would just go around the corner, smoke weed, and then they drink like a little bit of fucking whiskey or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Chillest.
Done.
Fucking.
Absolutely.
The only hardest thing was to get them to leave. That was.
Yeah, because
like, it's 2 a.m. Let's fucking get the fuck out.
Right, but still, I mean,
it was. Yeah, that's fine.
When I was a security guy, it was the same thing. Where you would like, I did concerts when I was in college, and like you would talk to like a guy at like a Dave Matthews show or something like that, and you'd be like, "Hey, buddy, you got to move out of the aisle." And he'd be like, "Yeah." I'd be like, "No, you just a little over to the side." And then eventually you would just kind of like, just gently kind of like move them like this. Like it's just water in the pool. And you're just like, okay, all right, now you're over here. And he wouldn't fight you. He'd just be like, okay, cool.
That's hilarious.
All right. That's all it was.
See? see, white people, that's how you can get along. Just start talking about Dave Matthews and see how everybody just got a little smiles in their faces, you know, like that scene from Airplane to Movie.
One of the great moments in cop interaction in my life took place at a Dave Matthews show in Hartford, Connecticut, whereas it was 3 nights of Dave Matthews.
And real quickly, black people will be able to relate in a few moments. Continue.
Yeah. Okay. So no, you won't, because this is what actually happened. So the cops came up to us who were doing security and be like, all right, here's the deal. Everybody in that parking lot is drinking and smoking weed and all this kind of stuff. So you guys are going to lead. And all you're going to do is just tell everybody the cops are 100 yards behind us. Put your weed away and put your alcohol in a cup that I can't see that it's alcohol. So we would literally walk down the thing and be like, hey guys, and be like, go to a party. Hey guys, the cops are 100 yards behind us. If you got weed, put it away. If you got, the cops didn't want to bust anybody because it was just this gigantic like concert.
Yes,
but they just needed to make sure. Yeah, yeah. So they just were. Well, that's why I said you wouldn't be able to.
That's what I'm saying. I get it. I haven't told black people to be able to relate again yet. We're just all sitting here listening in disbelief. That's what we're hearing.
Yeah,
we're like, really? Oh, that's how it works. Okay.
Just like,
there's a sound effect for that.
Yeah,
but that's incorrect.
That's how it works. Black people. That's
exactly how it happened.
That's black people. That's how it works in white at white concerts.
Yeah.
They send down like the scouts to let everybody know that
the lead whites,
right? That the 5-0's coming, and everybody like takes time and they can orderly put everything away and pour it into new cups and get the children clothed again and wipe the cocaine off the hood of the fucking car. Everything goes down. Yeah. Black people's a helicopter. Fucking goddamn.
No, yeah. When we did the black show, it was the other way around. The cops would come first, and then we would follow afterwards. Go, didn't you guys know the cops were coming?
Yeah, exactly. I get it. I don't even doubt it. I don't even. I have my concert experience. I can just feed from that. Now I understand. That was fantastic. Mike and Ron, we're here to help.
Here to help. Here, our special
Right.
Ron Bush birthday edition.
This is oh my god, that is true.
Oh my god.
That is, I can't even believe that. Yeah, I almost forgot.
I wanted to
March 17th.
March 17th.
Hi,
Congratulations, St. Patrick's Day for us Irishmen.
Yes.
Now, the one thing I wanted to talk about in terms of birthdays, and I don't know if your experience is similar to mine.
That you
I
have it
had
every year?
very difficult times with my birthday in my 30s.
Why is
Like it
that?
was because I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I was back in Pittsburgh. I was a little overweight. I wasn't. But recently, since I'm living in LA. I'm doing comedy. I'm doing a great podcast. I'm a little fit. I'm doing whatever. My last couple birthdays have been just like, oh, great. I turned 45. Awesome. Great. Whatever.
It's okay. So, yeah, I'll say this, and I teach this to my boy toys all the time. So for all the comedians out there who, who would love to have Ron Bush as your daddy, okay,
And who wouldn't?
right? Except Mike, you just that look in your face didn't seem like you wanted me to be your daddy, but you're pretty much it's not a starter. Okay, so anyway. For
The
all,
ones on YouTube just saw it.
Right. For all of those out there who would like to have a black daddy. All right. Here's something that you can take home. And I'm going to take this shit to the bank. I'm telling you.
Take it home.
I just turned 54. Okay. Depending on when you move out of your house, away from your parents and start paying your own bills. Okay. From that moment, into, your 29s. Okay. 28, 29-ish, 30-ish. You are living with everything that you learned under your parents and within the school system or your education system, whatever that looked like.
Yeah.
Okay. And all of your decisions are based off of what you think you know. Okay. By the time you hit 29, 30, you start realizing a lot of what you knew was wrong. You actually start recognizing what you do like about yourself, about situations, about food, all that, everything. I actually love to travel. I'm actually gay. No, really. It's just, I love big girls. I love, Did
it take for you into your 30s too?
No, I knew my sexual orientation emerged in my early 20s. So like 19, 20, it was when it really came up for me. But it can take.
I thought you were in the 1920s. I was like, my God, you look great.
I was at a speakeasy.
You're 120 years old.
I was listening to big band music, and I realized, wow, that Cab Calloway can really move.
We will have a new podcast producer by next week with that statement.
I hope Jim Crow leaves.
Wow. But yeah, no, but it can take people a long time to come out of the closet, because based off of social, religious, parental, all these different types of things, you can suppress your sexual orientation for a very long period of time. Now, for me in particular, it didn't take that long. I love men. Now, overcoming internalized homophobia and shame around that and how it affects your decision making and everything like that. That took years, I think by the time most men get around 30 to 35, 37, everything that happened to you up until about 29, and you're just like, you know what, I got this. Okay, bet. Oh, that's how it is. I got this.
Sometime in that's when you get your first kick in the head.
Right, absolutely.
In that 30 to 37, that's when you get you lose your job. That's when you
A
get
real
your
big-
first something hits where it's like, oh shit.
And it's not it's a series of things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The very pillars of what you have this major realization on the 20, 30s, and then by the time you're in like 35, 37, you get a series of hits to the gut that it actually hit to the very foundation of what you thought your reality was. And you change from that. This is part of life. And then from 37 to what you're experiencing now, 45, 46, it's like, here we are, baby. And there's a general level of acceptance of self. There's a general level of better self-control in it, because now you have experienced most horrible things that will happen to you in your life. You know what I'm saying? People will have died. You will have you've had to have had surgery. You've broken a bone. Your dog will have died. You know what I mean? All these things will have happened to you in some form.
You've been dumped.
You've been dumped. You had to dump.
You thought that you had the love of your life.
You
and
got
it didn't turn out.
right.
Yeah.
You got the DUI.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? All these things have happened to you. You've overcome the addiction. It's all there. Insert phrase there. All that happens. And so where you're at is now that all that has happened, you're at you know who you are. And so now you're at peace with that. You see what I'm saying? And you understand that that life isn't a zero-sum game. You know what I mean? It's not a football game. It's not, something that it's, you will die. That's happening.
Yes.
Okay. Like Mike was.
You realize everything ends.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I think if people want to talk about like what you didn't understand when you were younger,
Right.
like if you talk to someone in their teens or 20s or something like that, and they lose a girl,
right,
or they lose a guy, and you
Right.
sit there and be like, "Oh my God, my world is ending," and you're almost like, from our perspective, you're like, "No, this is going to happen a bunch of times.
right.
This is not this is not that
Right.
big a deal. Things will it's just everything. What I have learned, and you can respond. I've just learned everything's cyclical.
Right. It really is. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it just comes around. It's just okay. Just keep steady.
Right.
Don't do anything that's really going to like veer the car and crash into a pole.
Put you in prison.
But
Right.
yeah, put you in prison, put you in bankruptcy,
Right.
put you whatever. But
Right.
ultimately, if you just kind of keep your head down,
Put you in a podcast in Los Angeles.
yeah. Now this is getting the car to moving faster in a nicer car.
Absolutely.
But one of the things you talk about, my journey, and it's insane how accurate you were. Because in my 20s, like that's why I'm very good at talking to conservatives. Because if you would have spoken to me in my 20s, I was a Bill O'Reilly kind of,
Not you.
government is getting in our way kind of, because that was my upbringing.
Absolutely.
That was my
yeah,
parents.
And
That
all
was-
joking aside,
yeah.
absolutely. No, you're 100% right.
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
And you were in
guys.
football.
And
Right.
I was
You're
just football,
conservative
yeah,
Yeah.
especially football. It's a very
Absolutely.
conservative thing and everything.
Very macho, very toxic masculinity,
But
all that.
and I think one of the things that changed me was the fact that I lived a life. I had time to actually, because I think most people, especially if they get married and they start having kids at like 23, 24,
Kids will
Right.
stunt you.
that's where it's just like, okay, nothing else matters.
Because that's the way it is.
All I got to do is
With
take
good
care
reason.
of these
Right.
these little people. They're
Right.
my
Right.
world.
They're my world.
I
They're my
have to
life.
do no more
Absolutely.
introspection on myself.
Yes, that is
It's
end.
very few people do that, and
Yeah,
you
very
know,
few. With
very
kids,
few.
yeah.
with
That's what
kids,
fucks
yeah.
up with parents when they're getting to their 50s or
And-
60s and the kids are
Happened to my
gone.
I'm
mom.
gonna say, I'm gonna say something, and a lot of people are not gonna like this. Okay, and I am sure, if you don't know yourself, when you get into this long-term relationship, the relationship will not last. If you are not 100% comfortable and open and understanding about your sexuality and your sexual orientation, those are two different things. Google it.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And if you have not realized that and you get into a relationship where your partner is not willing to be flexible with that, the relationship will not last. Go talk to a psychologist. You see what I'm saying? You fall in love with your best friend, someone who you know is going to adapt and grow with you. All right. If you're in your 20s, man, and you're talking about getting married, nigga, you come here, homeboy, sit down, let's have a conversation. You will be a 100% different person by the time you're 35 to 37. And if your partner is not able to be flexible and grow with it, if that is not your best friend, you know what I'm saying? Dude.
That's where culture gets into it, where people, it's incredible to think, like I've done this on stage where I've talked, I am the age my father was when he had 8 kids
Right.
Wow.
and 3 kids in college.
That was those times were different. My dad is one of 12 brothers and sisters. My mom is one of 9 brothers and sisters. You know, we didn't have technology like we do now. You know what I'm saying? The moment that your spouse gets pissed off at you, they can get online.
Yeah.
and have like 10 dicks in your house by fucking midnight. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, but that's it is this concept. Now, for me, the awakening in my 30s was realizing that I'm a comedian.
Right.
that
Right.
when
I'm
I was a
down to my
football
40s,
player, and probably anyone who ever coached me will be like, yeah, this makes sense. I was a comedian playing football.
Your entire
Right,
life.
yeah.
Now, the thing is, I was a comedian as a salesperson. Now,
Right, same.
why that affects you is that I have found out in my own introspection is a lot of the things that why there was friction was because when you're a comedian, your instinct is to question everything.
Absolutely.
And so when you're a football coach and you're like, no, Sasson, I need you to run these 20 gassers. I'd be like, why? We're not getting better. This is a waste of my time. Now, granted, I wouldn't say that, but the way that I would fight against it I would run really, 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 really slow. And everyone's just like, Mike just must be just really fat. And then I'd run my 40 and be like, wait, Mike can actually run a pretty fast 40. Yeah. I didn't even think that it wasn't a front of the brain thing where I think like I'm protesting, but now realizing it afterwards, it was a subtle form of protest.
Yeah, sure.
Of me
Suck my dick.
just telling these meathead coaches, you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, this was like in the mid to late 90s. Everything that I knew what was wrong is now viewed as wrong in 2023.
That's hilarious.
Like two-a-days.
He's
2 practices a day.
Mike Sasson.
They don't do this anymore.
Mike Sasson is messianic in football.
I would believe I am the messiah of making sure that you don't crash your kids' skulls into themselves.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how they used to do it back in the day, right? I mean, it was just such a.
Oh yeah. We had a baseball coach that would make the kids come in at 5 a.m. to run laps before school because he thought it would help him. And we had one of the worst baseball teams.
Oh yeah, because baseball
Just
really takes
insane.
endurance.
5 a.m.
Yeah, it makes sure you
running
can.
laps at 5 a.m. to show how committed they were.
I mean, that's just
Suck my dick.
Well, that's what
That's
just
why
you're
I
a
loved
meathead.
baseball. I didn't play all through high school. 'cause
You're
that guy
just a
was such prick.
meathead and you don't know
Yeah, it's
actually
just
how to
insane.
coach. Paul Brown,
was an
Ohio
asshole.
guy.
Yeah.
Paul Brown,
Brown.
Ohio guy, always would sit there and say, if I ever went to a football practice and they were scrimmaging, I was watching a football coach who didn't know how to coach.
Right, and you know, these are your kids, and so I don't even know where to begin with that because I had such a bad experience when I was in school. You know what I mean? You know,
Teachers are the worst.
No, so it's I don't even want to use my experiences as as a guidepost, to how you're supposed to react.
Did you go to a Philly city school?
I went to Philly school then when I was young, and then went to high school in South Jersey, like Blackwood, New Jersey.
Oh fuck.
Which was predominantly white and very racist. And so I was.
You didn't have to say that twice.
Yeah, so
You already said Jersey. We were already,
You already said Jersey predominantly white.
Right,
You didn't have to
and
be
so-
like,
fair enough.
yeah, fair enough.
And
And apparently not incredibly progressive. I don't know what was going on.
hated gays too. It's
Yeah,
so weird.
and it was 1986. I
Right.
can't
It was.
imagine.
It was the
I
80s
can't
and
imagine
90s,
why this
yeah.
wasn't a place that accepted me in total.
Late 80s, yes, that was like 88, 89 kind of a thing.
But again, it is one of those things to where in your 30s, I speak to it now when you're 21, 22 years old, and I'll go up to them and I'll just be like, hey, I think you should. And they're just like, yeah, I got this. And I'm like, oh, good luck.
Yeah. And yeah. and
Good luck with that.
Like, all right.
And so now I just finished I just finished my midlife crisis. I did my ayahuasca ceremony last year. You know what I mean? I had, uncovered my suppressed memories and stuff like that.
You went full blown. You went to Peru and everything.
No, I
didn't
didn't know. I had this shaman come to my place here in Los Angeles. Yeah.
That shaman lives in his van. What are you talking about?
No. It's a highly recommended, amazing shaman who
That's
actually
the
just-
testament to LA, by the way, that you could have a shaman.
Yeah,
It was pretty legit. Come to your house.
He just actually came.
You can
back
order a
from-
pizza and a shaman, and the
Right.
shaman
Yeah,
will
yeah,
show
yeah.
up first.
and,
They actually
and-
have a hookup on Uber Eats.
but there's
It's an Uber driver.
I had interacted with some people at Rhythmia, which is that place down in Costa Rica, and so I got referred to some people who are in Los Angeles, and there's shamans that do travel, back and forth from South America, Peru.
So did you do
everything
this
like
in
that.
your house?
I did it in my house. Yes, I did a ceremony in my house, in my bedroom.
Because I've talked to people that have done the ayahuasca here in LA, and they've
a clinic.
They've gone to a clinic, or they'll go into like a place where it's like a field, or like so it's very tranquil, and then they drink this drink,
Right.
and then they barf out everything they've
shit
ever
their pants,
eaten
right?
in their life.
No, that's not exactly how it works, and so, but it is, but it isn't, and so, Yes, I had my room turned into basically turned my room into a ceremony room.
Okay.
And ayahuasca is served as the tea.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a combination of two plants. Okay, they call ayahuasca the grandmother of all plant medicine. If you've ever done acid or shrooms or something like that, you're in the ballpark. Okay,
But this is just another step above that.
It's way above, right?
It's an extraordinarily powerful.
Like
if
you
you
traveled
want to
the
call
stars.
it hallucinogenic. Yeah, and you can do that with any form of acid too. Also, okay, so let me just tell you my experience, all right? And so, my first serving, first of all, you want to clean all heavy foods out of your intestines, so no pasta, no rice.
It's like running it's like the opposite of running a marathon.
The week before, you know what I mean? Just like have your you want to be cleaned out as possible, so the medicine can do what she does, and so you're super clean.
That's also for the purging process, correct?
Yeah, exactly. And so exactly. So
So if you do that, then you won't do the barfing.
no, you will.
Oh, okay.
And so then
you
you enema, you clean out, you're clean.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, when you go there, right? And then you do ceremony. And the first serving, and I had my intentions. I knew the questions that I had about myself. Again, just going back to what we're talking about the life journey.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You get my age, you're like, okay. I've tried this every way to Tuesday and it's not working. What's the fucking deal?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's a very different question now. You see what I'm saying? And because my end game is my mother is is 86. You know what I'm saying? Although I am blessed with great genetics, I'm a 54-year-old motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? And so all the things that I can't figure out, that shit needs to be figured out.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? That that's where that's the stage I'm at, ladies and gentlemen, right? And so that's why I did the ayahuasca last year. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to leave anything. I'm not a guy who's going to leave anything on the field, right? To use a sports analogy, we're not.
Well, yeah, you're saying if there's a tool in the toolbox, I'm going to use it.
We're going to use it, baby.
Yeah.
We're going to use it. Yeah,
things better, why not?
I
Yeah.
believe in everything that I'm doing, and I truly believe that if I'm not achieving certain things, that is because of something that's coming from me. One of the realizations I had when I did ayahuasca was that I was sexually assaulted by my dad when I was younger. You know what I'm saying? When I was young. You don't know. The mind is a very powerful thing. I've dated people who's been sexually assaulted. I have counseled people because of the therapy and support work that I do as a part of my healing process. And I didn't know myself. That's how powerful your mind can be. And so when I look at people and they're telling me that they don't do that, I'm like, man, you have no fucking idea who you are. It's real easy not to. I'm not saying you don't, but it's real easy not to.
And I think if you want
in profoundly powerful
if you
ways.
want to get this into a bigger context
Absolutely.
of, again, wanting to help other people,
Absolutely.
I think that, like, again, we
Here
have
to
that
help, baby.
we have the woman who is the conservative commentator who this week went viral,
Right.
who was asked a very simple question because she wrote a book about how woke ideology is, now that's just something we're going to end with because this lady right here,
Right. She was one of my topics too.
yeah, she wrote a book.
I got the video too.
Yeah, Stolen Youth.
Stolen.
In terms of how the
Right.
the woke are
woke?
the woke are destroying. Now remember last week, kids, when anyone says the woke, our new thing is we go, please be specific.
Be
Right.
specific.
And
Right.
so
The who?
this person who was interviewing her asked her a very simple question.
Be specific.
Could you please define woke? And if you didn't hear, this is what happened.
Oh, sorry, I'm not coming through for some reason.
We're going to have a conversation with Travis after this.
Yeah, really.
Listen,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm woke upside his head.
I thought you talked to him.
Seriously.
listen.
I thought you
Hey
said-
guys, listen.
when
If you're listening to the podcast right now,
I'm gonna woke him.
everything's working flawlessly, and this is just what we like to do.
I'm going to
Of Americans consider themselves very liberal, and probably fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. And so, when we
What
talk
does
about
that mean to
traditional
you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
This
So,
black woman is one. This is why I love
I mean,
this black woman.
woke is
You can see the look on her face
sort of the idea that
because she knows she can't lie right now because she's talking to a black woman. Okay, that's what's happening right
Yeah.
now.
And
this
she
is going
doesn't
to be
know.
one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke
Oh, yeah.
is
Oh,
something
he
that's
knew that
very hard
much.
to define, and we've spent an entire chapter defining it.
It's hard
It
to
is sort of
define.
the understanding that we need to totally reimagine reimagine and redo society in order
Wrong.
to create hierarchies of
Wrong.
oppression.
What?
Wrong.
Sorry, it's hard to explain in a 15 second
See, that's
soundbite.
fascinating to me because it's like, oh wow,
No,
that woman
because
thinks it's the opposite.
Because
of
you're talking to an African American, and you're a racist, and you know in your heart of hearts that you racist people have stolen that phrase from black people to describe people who do understand the sensitivities of culture, that do understand the sensitivities of how systemic issues affect all of us, the Mike Sasses, the Travises of the world, do understand about sexism, that do understand about homophobia. You are woke. You understand these things, and you try your best. None of us are perfect. We try our best.
Now, just to be fair, at a year earlier, just so you know, this wasn't thrown in there. This is another interview that she did in which someone says, "What do you mean by wokeness?" This is again her being asked, and goes, "In terms of children, it's the idea of turning them. I think my best example is the book Antichrist Baby, and it's this. Hold on, I have it. I have the text somewhere. The idea that you cannot be neutral, that it's a fundamental reshaping of our society in the lens of anti-racism, in the lens of sexuality, that is not what we've traditionally thought. It's an idea that we're trying to turn our kids into modern warriors in these political battles about CRT, about sexuality and sexuality, climate change, and things."
It's just
she had a year to come up with one
answer.
Well,
again, it's not. When it's not a she knows she's either one, a complete fucking idiot, okay, which she clearly is, and then on top of that, she there's no way in the world that she's gotten this far in life doing what she's doing without actually hearing the actual definition of woke. And the reason why they never want to give you the actual definition of woke is because everyone agrees with it.
I mean,
there's fundamental. There's racism in the society, and we need to deal with it.
Yes, there's sexism in society. We need to deal with it. Yeah. There is homophobia in society. We need to deal with it the best way we can. Let's have that discussion.
Now, I wish that your answer of that she's an idiot would be that I agree with her. Because here's something else from that interview, which I thought. So she didn't like the ideas.
Or this one?
This is the same woman.
Okay.
So they asked her why she wrote a book called Heroes of Liberty. Because she sat there and said that there wasn't books like
liberty.
this. And she goes, if you walk into anywhere, there are modern books, a bookstore or library or whatever. My last count, there were 27 different children's books about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Fine. I mean, I own one and my daughter loves it. But in addition to those books, which my kids love, I wanted a book about Amy Coney Barrett, which again, she's obviously achieved. She's the Catholic fascist, yeah. And it doesn't exist. It's frustrating when you look at it's available on Scholastic. Now, Who Was series, which is like that's the standard. Who Was series.
Right.
There's a Who Was Che Guevara, Who Was Fidel Castro. But it's hard to find a written book of Who Was Ronald Reagan. By the way, it's right there. I found it in 5 seconds. Who was Ronald Reagan?
Right.
And by the way, if you keep looking, I sent Travis a bunch of them.
All of them, baby. Here we go.
Here is
Jesus.
Here's Who Was Jesus.
Yeah, and then where's this?
And here is Who Was Richard Nixon. So, by the way, when this woman's sitting there going, they're not.
She doesn't even know they exist.
She's like, you know what the fuck? Because here's the thing. I wish he was right in that she's an idiot. She's worse than that. She's a grifter.
She's maliciously.
Well, she's someone trying to bilk people out of their money.
May I read the Amazon description of her book?
The Tucker Carlsons of the world.
Yeah.
All of the
Please get Richard Nixon's face off the screen.
My heavenly goodness.
Sadly, her face is easier to learn. Wait, you want Jesus?
Let's do Jesus for a while.
Do Jesus for
and
a
they gave him white. They gave him white marketing Jesus.
Oh yeah,
he looks like
a cracker ass Jesus.
looks like a William Dafoe's son.
Yeah, he's so white he turned the birds wet.
Yeah. I love how they gave all the kids giant. In the past, all historic figures had giant heads.
Yeah, you like that?
It made Trump feel better about his little hands.
I love how they just made him white Jesus.
May I read the synopsis for her book, by the way? Just a few segments here. So her book is the full title: "Stolen Youth: How Radicals Are Erasing the Innocence and Indoctrination of a Generation."
Dun dun dun
dun dun dun. And just the beginning part here. The left is waging an all-out battle on the American family, particularly the youngest members. If they could make our children miserable, lead them to question every building block of society, and rebuild their entire concept of reality, then the left and their woke indoctrinations will consider that a victory, but we can't let them win. This is a book. This is for a book.
It's just, I just got to say
so much
this.
more, by the way.
If there's someone, we can't.
No, please don't.
If you read these types of, listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's really simple. Okay? It's really, really simple. If you believe that if what you're saying is about negativity and divisiveness, is about someone else not being as good as or not as deserving as, or not whatever it is, you're on the wrong side of history, bud.
Yes,
that's it. It's just you don't have to be a hater. Don't be a hater, okay? And stop trying to make excuses for your hate, and go back into your hate closet. People are trying to live their lives.
So and this is where I think it's even more sinister than, they're idiots, they're racist, whatever.
Preach, Mr. Sasson.
I believe these people are just essentially just trying to make money.
Of course.
They know that there is
so much money.
She's on
right
TV.
way.
She's on TV.
Yeah, there's a giant market for people, and this goes back to the ayahuasca, where you sat there and you says, I had questions and I needed to answer those questions. These people who foster this and want to create this divisiveness are playing upon people that, because of circumstances of their economic condition, their culture, whatever, have not been able to actually ask questions.
Right.
Actually investigate. So one of the things they don't want people to do, they want to control the literature that they could possibly read, which is why the DeSantises of the world and the Trumps of the world and these ladies of the world are sitting there going, well, I don't like the fact that they don't have a Ronald Reagan book, when it absolutely there is a Ronald Reagan book. You just want them to read your Ronald Reagan book.
Right. And you want to curry up these negative fear emotions that you yourself are struggling with. Your feelings of inequality, your feelings of ineffectiveness, your feelings of low self-esteem are what's driving you to force other people to look and feel like you do, so you can feel accepted around a bunch of other people who also feel less than themselves. And so, of course, if you feel less than yourself, you have a bunch of people around you that feels less than yourself, what do? It's someone else's fault. Well, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Okay, when you have all these questions and you go into ceremony, and and you see and you get your answers, by the way, and for anybody who I don't advise any form of substance from weed or anything. I don't advise anybody to do the things that I may or may not do. But if this is something, if you have issues, I suggest you do a little research. The answers come to you in one of the most beautiful. It's
like any medicine in the world. Yeah. If I take medicine, don't take my medicine. Right. It's my medicine.
But it's the answers come to you as beautifully as possible. But to boil it all down, and what I'm going to mention to everyone to kind of ratchet this up to what Sansom was talking about with this woman here. Anything that's happening in your life, it's your responsibility. Whether it happened, whether it didn't happen. However you perceive how it happened, it being a positive or negative thing, it's your responsibility. It's your fault, okay? It's no one else's fault. You have created every situation that you are sitting in right now. It is you who have done this. No one else. You can walk outside and get shot. You can be beat by the police. You can contract some disease. A train can crash, in your neighborhood, okay? I heard from a very wise man, choice, chance, and the actions of others. That is what makes your life move, okay, in any direction. Choice, chance, and the actions of others. So yes, there are situations, if you walk into a building and say there's a school shooter or whatever, there are situations that are out of your control. But ultimately, how you live your life, every emotion that you have is a choice, and you're the one who's making those choices. And there's reasons why, and they can be very good reasons. Trust me, they can be really, really good reasons. But the bottom line is, those are the choices that you've made. Those choices are you're making, and so stop blaming other people. And if what I'm saying is firing you up, it's because it's fucking true. Prove me wrong.
No, Ron, it's the woke It's the Jews.